right, good evening. And welcome. We'll call the May 12th Kittleville Hills Board of Commissioners meeting to order. If you'll please join me and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, if you'll join us for a moment of silence, and as you do, you'll please keep in mind a long-term employee, Kathy Miller, that works in our Water and Public Works Department, who is going through a battle with cancer. So if you'll please keep her in your thoughts as we go into this moment of silence. Thank you. Okay. First on the agenda this evening is the agenda approval.
I'll make a motion we approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, next this evening we have a series of public hearings. There'll be 3 public hearings conducted this evening, and the following rules apply to the public hearings. This is with all public hearings. A public notice of the hearings was published in the newspaper and posted on town bulletin boards in accordance with the statutory requirements for the subject matters. A copy of the public notices have been filed with the town clerk for the entry into our official record for hearings. The town clerk will record all oral comments in a concise and brief manner. Written statements shall be recorded in a similar manner and made part of the record and shall be submitted in full to the town clerk. If you are speaking at any of these public hearings this evening, if you're speaking as an individual, we ask you to, or actually you'll be speaking as an individual, limit your comments to 3 minutes, please. If you are speaking on behalf of a group, you would identify that if you're speaking as the spokesperson, and please limit those comments to 5 minutes. All speakers should come to the microphone, and you will state your name and address, please. So the first public hearing is being called to order. This hearing is called for the purpose of the Kittleville Hills Board of Commissioners to receive comments on the conditional use site plan for the Kittleville Hills Wastewater Treatment Plant, LLC. This is at 801 Bermuda Bay Boulevard, the G&I zone, private ownership. This is on proposed building removal, dense vegetation buffering, and 616 square foot tank shelter. I'd like to first call on Greg this evening to provide a brief summary of this item for the benefit of the board and the audience.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and welcome everybody. Tonight we're looking at the first public hearing is to amend a site plan. This is a conditional use site plan kind of back behind us, west of us, between the high school and Bermuda Bay, which did have a metal building over the wastewater treatment facility. And what this plan intends to do tonight is be heard and make a decision, possibly if the board would like to, on not putting that building back. That building was actually deteriorated, and I got a building permit to tear it down because it was a danger, and the sewer plant needed to operate, which was under it in the middle of the summer last summer. So that was removed, and this plan proposes to install some dense vegetation along the north and west elevations of the site and around the sewer plant, and construct a 616 square foot building, which is a tank shelter over the existing UV dosing site tank. And the proposal before you again is to modify the conditional use permit in order to avoid replacement of the building and add the vegetation and add this pole shed, for any lack of a better description. And you will find that in your packets last time you had the staff comments about it, and then on March 18th, 2014, the planning board recommended approval of this site plan And tonight, you're having the public hearing. And if you have any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer.
Okay. Well, we have a sign-up list, and we have one for the 3 public hearings tonight. I am thinking, though, perhaps some people signed up on this sign-up sheet, maybe wanting to speak for something else. But I'm going to go through the list, and if you want to speak specifically on this topic at this public hearing, on what Greg just explained, that would be the time to do that. Otherwise, we'll get to you either at the next public hearing or during public comment if you're wishing to address the board on any type of item. Okay. Bob, I think you're looking at, okay, not that, I just wanted to make sure. Okay. Jim, is it Nicholson?
Yep.
Is that now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. If you'd like to please come to the
Okay.
podium, sir. Thank you.
My name is Jim Nicholson. I live at 5200 Amsterdam Place, Raleigh, North Carolina. A vice president with H.H. Hunt Assisted Living, and we own the Spring Arbor of Outer Banks. It's next to this building. And we're probably the closest structure to the sewer treatment facility. I actually negotiated the contract to buy this property in October of 2002. We built the original building in June of 2005, or opened the building. We added an addition in early 2010. And we have about 80 residents. Our residents are in their 80s. They're very frail. The contract that we negotiated with Kill Devil Hills LLC, which is Eddie Goodrich and Skip Dixon, one of the items was that they were supposed to operate this plant in a manner that would not be detrimental to our use as an assisted living building. The building's been down now for over almost a year, a little bit over a year. I was over earlier today. Our ED, executive director that operates the building, is here today also. And the smell is terrible, especially when the wind's blowing in a certain direction. And we just feel like that when we chose this site, we had an opportunity to build in Dare County. I looked at sites in this jurisdiction, in Manio, and other areas of the county to build. We were assured and we felt confident because the original plan approved by this commission had that structure that completely enclosed the treatment facility, that we'd never have a smell or a problem in this building. And so we feel like in some respects that the developers let us down, and also the fact that the commission is entertaining a proposal to do away with this building and not have it replaced, it hurts our operation. You know, if we have damage to our buildings, we have insurance on it. We repair buildings, and we've been doing this for 46 years, and just feel like that somehow we've been let down by someone because this building's not there, and for over a year we've had to endure the smell. I'm not convinced that the plan that the developers have here will solve this problem.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Jackie Harris.
My name's Jackie Harris. I've lived in Kill Devil Hills on 902 Swan Street for 27 years. After reading the paper and noticing this, it's asking for permission to tear something down that's already been torn down. So it's better to ask for forgiveness than it is permission. I've got several things here I would like to know. This is going to be a site plan revisal after the fact, because it's already been done. It's not to be approved, it's already been done. They're in violation right now and have been for a year of their conditional use permit. I've been informed that the lawyers recommended that this go forward rather than go through a legal battle. I don't know where that came from, but that's what I've been told. Does this mean that the owner does not have to maintain anything in town if it gets in bad shape? He just tear it down, do what he wants to do, and then we'll come back later and fix it? The building was damaged by a hurricane and was not repaired after it was damaged. It sat there for 6 or 8 months with the roof open. And nobody made any attempts to repair it or put tarps over it or anything. In the previous years, the holding tanks were covered with a tarp, and the only time they were uncovered was to clean the tanks when they needed cleaning. That kept the smell down. and the ventilation system took care of the rest of it. The ad in the newspaper is a little bit misleading. It states, conditional use, private ownership, proposed building removal. If I propose to build, tear something down and remove it a year later, I don't understand that. The building was torn down over a year ago, so I'm proposing to take it down now. Mr. Lloyd made a while ago statement that I know it's all on the up and up, so, but there's things wrong. The way this is worded is, I don't know who did what or anything, don't care. I recommend that this be kicked back, have the state come in and evaluate what needs to be done to make it odor-free for the citizens. If you're out there at a football game and the wind's blowing, you get up and leave. If you're 5 blocks away, you get up and you go inside. City of Chesapeake, Norfolk, all the big cities have canvas tops and buildings that enclose these things. Maybe not canvas, but polyurethane or whatever. And I recommend that that be the only thing allowed for this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Mike Lowak, is that on this topic or no? Okay. Eddie Goodrich?
Thank you. My name is Eddie Goodrich. I live in Kilgore Hills, North Carolina. And I am the manager and owner of Kilgore Hills Wastewater Treatment Plant, LLC. To give you some history of how we got where we are. Back around in 2001, we purchased 60 acres of property from Pepper Tree Resorts, on which there was a failing 200,000 gallon wastewater treatment plant. It had 23 customers, and also there was, basically it was non-compliant, and the customers were in jeopardy of not having any service whatsoever. And there was the Ocean Acres issue where the town had to maintain that system, which was a discharge plant which was discharging water, treated wastewater into the Roanoke Sound. Well, we solved all those problems. And we hooked up Ocean Acres to our system, and now we've got around 200 customers, and all of them are fairly well satisfied. I think all of them are. We've never had but a couple of complaints filed against us, which is kind of miraculous, actually. We chose to put a metal building over the wastewater treatment plant, which is very rarely done. And the metal building supplier and the contractor used the wrong materials. And the building only lasted 7 or 8 years. Normally, they would last 30 or 40 years. We're in litigation right now with the builder, and quite frankly, we've pled fraud and misrepresentation and negligence, and it's very easy for us to prove that the wrong materials were used. It's a corrosive environment. Division of Water Quality, who regulates us, the state of North Carolina Division of Water Quality, they will tell you, and I'm asking them right now to send me some information, that buildings over wastewater treatment plants are not the best ideas. If you think about it, what would happen in a hurricane if it did blow the building down? Or if a tornado hit it? All of our customers would be out of service. Well, with it like it is, it can't be hurt like it is. It's concrete and steel. But the building actually is dangerous if a hurricane comes in or a tornado spawned off of it. Now, what we plan to do, the same thing is going on there now that was before. The only difference is if you ride back there, you can see it. So what we plan to do is, again, the vegetative plan that you see there. We plan to use a chemical called desulfonator, which we put that in the lift stations and start the process beforehand. And we plan to pay, the way the plant works is there's one chamber or one tank that is the equalization tank. That's the only tank that has raw sewage in it. That's where all the smell is. We're going to cover that with hollow core concrete panels. It's never been done before, but the people at Division of Water Quality think it'll work, and I can't imagine why it won't work. It's very simple. Hollow core concrete panels are used in the construction of concrete buildings, skyscrapers, any kind of building. And what they do, the panels are about 4 feet wide. They have holes in them that run all the way through them. You force air through the holes, heat and air, and it keeps the floor at 70 degrees, and it has registers so the hot or cold air can come out. And it basically is the heat and air system for the building. Well, if you can force air through it and force air out, you can pull air through it as well. So I came up with the idea to put the concrete panels over the tank and pull the air out of the equalization tank, run it through our fume scrubber, and that will be better than anything we've ever done yet. And people at Division of Water Quality think it'll work just fine. There's no reason to assume that it won't. It's all concrete. And I'll be glad to answer any questions that you have, but the same thing is going on now. All we were doing was concealing something that's happening, and quite frankly, I think the vegetation, if you do it with 20-foot tall trees all the way around, it'll look better than a big building. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks, Eddie.
Okay. As far as names that still signed up, Diane Denny, was that? Oh, where's Diane? Is that here? Okay. Welcome, Diane.
Good evening. My name is Diane Denny. I live here in KDH, and I work at Spring Arbor Assisted Living at 803 Bermuda Bay Boulevard. I'm the executive director there. What I can tell you is, a year ago, we had no complaints about the smell. Since that time, residents who are our frail elderly that live with us, as well as their families, have complained on a consistent basis. There are many days where we're not able to take the residents outside because of the smell. When you talk about quality of life, that outside can be very important to these folks as well. So I'm not as concerned about the looks of it, although it is very ugly, but I'm not concerned about that as much as I am the smell. And I have had complaints from residents and families, as well as staff, on the smell.
Thank you.
Thanks, Diane.
Is there anyone else? There weren't any other signatures on this list, but that's okay. If there's anyone else that's in the audience that wishes to speak during this public hearing on this topic? Is there anyone that wishes to speak this evening? Okay.
Say one more thing. I'd just like for everybody to note, first of all, I think the good things that we've done for the town, and above all, the plant was there before anybody else was, including the schools, Spring Arbor, or anybody. So it was there before anybody else was or anything else was.
Yes, sir.
The plant was there, but it didn't smell. All right. Now, he stated, quote, he made a statement. He did Ocean Acres back to the town, for the town and all that. But it was done through grant money and stuff. It wasn't his expense. If he wins this case against the people that build the building, will he redo it, or is he going to compensate somebody? The engineer for the covers, he thinks it's going to work. They think it's going to work, but what if it don't? The town is still with the smell. Thank you.
Okay. And what we're gonna, actually, what we need to do is we can't create a debate situation here.
One more comment.
Okay, one more comment, and then we need to
We
move on to the
paid
board.
this group $160,000 for capacity, so service not free. We would have not built this building here if there'd been a smell there, because I spent time on the site. Our contract condition was there would be no smell, nothing that would affect our use of the site. So, and he had to have the sewer plant in operation as a condition of our closing. We didn't close until that happened. So, I mean, it's easy to say that the plant was there first, but we wouldn't have built there without that happening. We would have built in Manio or somewhere else in the county.
Okay. Okay. So, if there's no new, are there any new speakers? Anyone left that has not spoken yet? Okay. Basically, we now can ask questions. If we need to call someone up, we can call them up. The public hearing won't be closed until we're ready to make an action.
Okay.
Until we're ready to take action. So if we need to call for clarification, certainly we can call on staff. But at this point, though, people won't speak from the audience unless we have a question that we're then directing to them and ask them to come to the podium. Okay, is that everyone clear on process? Okay, so we'll open the floor for discussion, questions, comments. You want to start?
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you guys ever had a situation where you had to smell sewage? I have. It's horrendous. You cannot escape the smell. I mean, you can go inside, you can close the window, but then you're stuck with turning the AC on. And who wants to do that when it's nice out? So, I mean, this is unacceptable to be held hostage like this in where you live, in my opinion.
Travis, do you have any?
Question to Eddie on, the question was raised on if a building would be replaced. I'm assuming no, if concrete panels are being looked at to be covered, that main tank being covered. Has that been done anywhere else?
Eddie, do you mind coming to the podium, please? Thank you.
No, it hasn't, but there's no reason to assume that it won't work because concrete panels, hollow core concrete panels have been used for years. And obviously, if you can force air through them, you can pull air through them.
Right.
So nobody that I know will say that it won't work.
Okay. And what exactly is a fume scrubber? That
A
was
fume
new one for
scrubber
me.
is a machine that uses a liquid chlorine mist
Okay.
to kill bacteria and kill the smell.
And the bacteria, the smell is the bacteria,
Yes.
basically. Okay.
Is there some place where this is up and running now that we could check it out?
I'm sure there is. I'll have to find out. I'm sure there is, yes. If you will, this is Mike Robinson, our engineer.
The sewage treatment plant smell, I mean, that's just an inescapable reality of wastewater treatment. The odor is generated at the point where the raw sewage stream hits the atmosphere. And that's where the hydrogen sulfide is generated. Now, in our case, the raw sewer hits the atmosphere at the equalization chamber, which is the big tanks on the south side of the building, or the treatment plant. What we're proposing to do is cover that area of the equalization, draw the fumes out, and pass it through a fume scrubber. It's actually not a chlorine mist, it's actually a peroxide mist that we inject into the stream. There's a slight byproduct that goes right back into the waste stream, but it's very effective at treating the odor from a wastewater treatment plant. It's been used all over the place. The commercial grade fume scrubbers are readily available. We already have one in place. We're looking at flipping it up vertically to make it more effective, but we can help control the odor. The other thing that we have to remember is, building or no building, the same amount of gas is produced at the raw sewage oxygen interface. So whether that building is there or whether that building is not there, that same amount of hydrogen sulfide is being generated. It's just, I can't explain why they're getting more complaints without the building. It may be, I can't explain that, but the same amount of gas, which is the odor, is being generated with or without a building over this treatment plant.
What happened with that gas while the building was still up?
We have a fume scrubber that's in place right now.
Okay.
And it consists of basically a swimming pool cover. Now, at this point, it's ripped. We're looking into taking that cover and replacing it with these hollow core panels that Eddie's come up with, because it's more of a permanent fixture. It's really tough to maintain a swimming pool cover in the sun and the wind and everything else. So that's the plan. We feel very confident that we can address the odor, and we were actually doing that as part of our regular plant upgrade process. So,
How long will it take to build all this?
it's in design right now. We've got to get it permitted. DWQ will not have a problem with permitting this. I'm very confident of that. Eddie, I don't know, what's the timetable for?
This can be made rather
Yeah.
quickly.
It should happen relatively quickly. So,
Where-
and also the utility operator has instituted a new process where they're putting some chemicals in the lift station. That starts part of the treatment process before it ever gets to the plant, and that's also very effective at removing the odor.
Okay. Where is that on the calendar?
That, Eddie, when does that start?
Is something there?
Yeah.
It already has.
Okay, so that's already started. Okay.
Well, I'm sorry. When? How soon could this be done? I didn't hear a date.
The treatment plant, or Eddie, I'll have to let you address that.
I don't have a time frame for the panels to cover the tank, but first I need a decision from you. Then I can plan.
Building over wastewater treatment plant was a bad idea to start with. It seemed like a good idea, and when we almost immediately started getting corrosion within the building. The corrosion got so bad, and a lot of it was concealed, that when a roof panel fell in, we all sort of took a step back and said, wait, this is not good. At the same time that roof panel fell in, there was a tropical storm tracking up the coast. So the reality hit us that what if this tropical storm hits us and this building comes down on top of this wastewater treatment plant? There are hundreds of properties in the town that are not going to have sewer. So at that point, the decision was, we came in and talked to the town. They granted us the permit to remove the building. They did say we needed to come in and modify the permit, but it was sort of an emergency situation. We didn't have much choice but to take that building down when we took it down. Because if it had to come down on top of the treatment plant and the operators couldn't get in there and operate it, we would have had a disaster.
We took it down, the town condemned the building, we took it down because it was dangerous. And we think putting it back's a bad idea because it'll be dangerous again. I think a hurricane can blow it down, a tornado could hit it. It's just not a good idea to have it covered. It's a good idea to deal with the odor, and we'll do that.
I see it as a catch-22 situation. I can see both sides. Mr. Harris, I definitely see your situation, your side of the situation. I think we're in a bad state that if we do grant this, that we're giving the impression that it's okay to go forward and ask for forgiveness rather than permission. But at the same time, this was extenuating circumstances. So I think there's got to be something somewhere in the middle. I'm not hearing anything that I would like to hear a little bit more of a guarantee that this is going to move forward pretty quickly, and that there would be some resolution. I tend to, most of you in the audience know that I work with those frail elderly people that are at Spring Arbor. I want to make sure that those folks are not going to have an affected quality of life. This is something that they did not have to buy that property. I was actually involved with that. I was involved with the folks that were involved with that property prior to them purchasing that. So I'm extremely involved with this. I don't see this as a there's a no-win in this situation all the way around, honestly. So I don't know what else to say.
Can I ask a clarification question? I mean, catch-22 and other thing has been brought up, but if the building was built after the wastewater treatment plant was in operation, is there a legal requirement for them to have a building? If not, they got a permit to remove the building. So I'm wondering,
Well, this is
where
a
we really
conditional.
stand here.
The reason we're here, this is a conditional site.
right?
So, and I'm calling Greg, I mean, basically, whenever you make modifications, because of how this was originally granted, it has to come back before us
So the-
here because
so-
of the type, because it's a conditional use.
So the original permit was issued with the building in place, or the building needing to be in place.
Right, with it in place.
Okay.
That, anything, was I
So
correct?
much as if they were coming in to modify their traffic flow situation, they would have to come back to this board and have that plan approved. I think it was in excess of 500 square feet. But the plan is technically correct. The issue is the odor, and everybody here realizes that, and I think everybody has the same goal, if I'm not mistaken. I heard it from Mr. Goodrich. I guess the question is what will the board do in trying to resolve this? What, a lot of things are going through my mind in terms of options that could be thought of. And if you need more time, there's a possibility of doing that as well, to give everybody more comfort on the addressing the odor issue.
I toured that plant with Bill Pitt this past winter, and I will admit it was an extremely cold day. And Eddie showed us how the plant worked, and the only place that there was odor on that particular day was where it came in, where the big pipe came in, and you could detect it there slightly, but on a cold day, it's really not as much of an issue as it is on a hot summer day. And he explained to Bill and I at that time how this was going to work, so I had a little bit of foreknowledge on how this was all going to be. And we can't turn the thing off. That's just virtually impossible. The consequences, the ramifications of doing something like that would be, for businesses, it would be catastrophic. Because a lot of the allotment for the plant, the gallons are allotted to businesses, which we all rely on in one way or another. And since Greg mentioned it, I was even thinking of suggesting maybe thinking about this or coming up with a more concrete plan, because we're not really sure. I'm not really sure by listening to you and Mike, Eddie, that when's this going to be done? When's that going to be done to fix the problem? I know you said you're waiting for us to tell you what to do, or to grant the authority to do it. But maybe if we had 30 days or something where we could sit down and come up with something that we could bring back here and we would be satisfied with, and we could satisfy the public. And I live closer to that plant than anybody, by far. I could walk there in 3 minutes, and we've smelled it at our house, and when the building was there. So it may be the fact that the air was discharged at a bit more altitude. I don't know, because it went out through vents, I believe. That may be part of it, but occasionally we still do right now, and it is bothersome. I can understand, especially the people that are right pretty close to it would be upset. But I don't think approving this right now is going to do us a whole lot. It's not going to. I don't think it isn't going to satisfy me, and I don't think it's going to satisfy anybody here if we just do this and then let it, and then that's the end of it. I think we need to look further. And if you're willing, you and Mike and your associates, you're willing to sit down with the town or sit down with the planning department or whatever expertise, we can all get together and come up with some sort of a plan. Maybe we can table this with maybe a specific date to bring it back, 30 days or 60 days or something, and look at it. I'm not prepared to make a decision tonight.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't vote either way other than tabling it to begin with.
Well, a couple things, if we're moving in that direction, that I think I'd like to know what our enforcement options are and what our authority is with that. Related to, the biggest concern is how we are going to mitigate the smell issue. I would dare say for the people that have spoken tonight, they probably don't care whether it's a building or whether it's the hollow core panels. They just want the smell gone. And if that's truly the issue, then I think our big task as commissioners is to get a solution in place and a timeline to reassure these folks, since they've been dealing with this for a while, how we can assure that. And then what assurance, if it doesn't work, what legal authority do we have to say, okay, you tried this, it's not working, the smell is still an issue. Is it because it's conditional use, do we have the authority then to threaten to, that's what I need to know from a legal standpoint, because I think that will weigh into what our decisions are. In the short term, though, because that may take 30 days, in the short term, I did hear you guys say there's a tear, and there has been in the current, which you kind of described, I think conceptually, as like a pool cover, but that fume, in fairness to the folks that are living there and smelling this, is that not something that can be repaired? Wouldn't you still need that? And shouldn't we do something for them by getting that back to the way it should be?
The concrete panels will replace the pool cover. And I believe DWQ will allow us to call it maintenance. They've already said that. In other words, if we want to replace the pool cover with hollow core concrete panels and pull the air out of the tank and run it through the fume scrubber, because there's a cover over the tank already but it's torn, placing concrete panels over it to seal it off, they will allow us to call that maintenance and just say, do it.
And
we'll come up with a concrete plan and a time frame.
And do we have, I'm looking at you, Greg, but it may need to be, it's Steve, how we can enforce with a timeline and what jurisdiction we have with that? Can we put a timeline that's something, once we make a decision, that either a temporary solution, like fixing the pool cover, or has to be in place within 30 or 60 days? My concern is with the hollow core panel, I don't have an issue conceptually with using that instead of the building. I have no problem with that. But prior to tonight, I had not heard from the citizens how big of an issue this was with the smell. So I want to make sure that that's factored into it. And if it takes, because this is brand new, 6 to 9 months to design that and build it and implement it, that wouldn't be acceptable in my opinion. Because that's a long time for the citizen. And I don't know how long it would take. So do we have the authority to require something as an interim measure?
I don't think you have anything you can require them to do in the interim. If they're violating the conditional use permit somehow because the cover is torn or something like that, or it violates some other ordinance in the town, you could enforce it that way, but there's no real enforcement mechanism for you. Now, the Division of Water Quality Management may have some enforcement tools through their regulation, and I don't know, do they come down and inspect it and make sure that everything's in place, Eddie? How often do they do that?
Once a year.
How often does DWQ inspect this?
They usually come down about twice a year. We're operating in full compliance with their DWQ permits. As a matter of fact, the odor control system that's there now was not even on their original plans. That was something that we recognized we were getting some fumes from the plant, and we came in and put that in place. So that wasn't even a part of the plan. That's another step that we've taken, in the meantime.
I guess a question, you talked about being able to put these concrete panels in as a repair instead of having to, would they just give you a permit to do that?
Yeah, we'll probably bring them on site, show them exactly what we want to do. I'm not even sure they will require a permit to do it. It's they understand that we're trying to address the odor, and we've been fighting with it for a while now. But it is something we can fix, at least to our greatest ability. We still have to remember there's 300,000 gallons of raw sewage coming into that plant on a peak day in the summertime. And the wastewater treatment plant is a biological process, and it ebbs and flows as the biology thrives and as the biology dies off. So there's it's really tough to get a plant and keep it running perfectly all the time. You know, occasionally your plant will get upset and it will burp out some fumes. And that's the nature of the beast, sorry to say. I mean, there's a lot of sewage coming into that plant on a given day.
I guess another question is, building aside, is your plan to replace the pool cover with these concrete covers? So you're going to do that no matter what?
We were already planning to do that before. Well, actually, I take that back. This, once the building, we knew we had to take the building down. We knew the swimming pool, and believe it or not, the swimming pool cover that we put in place was going to be almost cost equivalent to the concrete panels that we're going to put down. So, you know.
So if you went ahead and did that, that would give us some indication of whether the idea is going to work.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it will work to a certain extent, but can we guarantee that nobody's ever going to smell that thing again? Absolutely not.
I just guess my other concern is, in listening to Mr. Nicholson, is the fact that they did purchase this property on the condition that the building was there, and that's part of the reason we're here right now, is the conditional use permit is there, and it's there, and when you purchased the property, it was there. And so you did that knowing that the building was there, and that's your concern, and I see it on your face, so don't worry.
Can I make one comment? I don't want you to delay this for 30 or 60 days to study it, because today it's 87 degrees and it's terrible over there. In the next 60 days, it's going to be worse. And I just hate for you guys not to take some action so they can at least start some program to mitigate the smell.
Well, and that's what we're trying to talk to them right now. If they're going to do, they need to do something, and they just said that they were looking into the hollow core panels, irregardless of whether there was going to be a building or not. Correct.
Well, actually, if we had to put that building back up, we would probably not do that.
Okay.
We'd probably stay with a pool cover or something like that, and just keep the system that we have in place right now.
Okay.
And, you know, so I think we can come up with a solution that's going to be better for everybody without having to replace that building.
Well, what about a solution right now for the smell right now?
Oh, well, what we can do is we're already introducing the sulfonator into the lift stations, and we can talk to the operator and see what we can do about doing some temporary repairs on the cover. Go through and make sure that the fume scrubber is fully functional right now. I mean, we can take some steps right now between now and the time when we all get back together.
Mike, do you remember when the last inspection was?
No, I don't.
Or Eddie, do you remember?
I don't think it was that long ago, to be honest with you. Robert Tankard at DBQ, I believe, was on site. It probably wasn't that long ago. He stops in from time to time. I can get you that information and email it to you. That would be helpful.
So, as far as the importance of us making a decision is, from the owner's perspective, if they don't know the direction the board's going, and that we're going to honor a specific site request, site plan change, then they're at a standstill. So is the smell issue too, because it sounds like if they have to put a building in, they're going through a different route, versus if they don't put the building in, they're going with the hollow core panels. What's in front of us tonight is the plan that's been changed to reflect the hollow core panels and not a building.
No, there's no hollow core panels on this plan.
It's just not the building, and
That's right.
But that's what their plan is to mitigate, since they don't have the building and they wouldn't have the fume. That is a fume scrubber. You would be using the hollow core panels in its place. Is that right?
Yes, and I don't have any doubt, and Mike will tell you the same thing. Bill Freed, who's the plant operator, and anybody that's an engineer, and people at Division of Water Quality will tell you that the sealing the equalization tank and using the panels to pull the air out of it, and then using fume scrubber will work far better than the building. I mean, you have to approach it from where the problem is. And the building was basically just concealing what's going on. It wouldn't accomplish anything whatsoever, other than you couldn't see it. Same thing's happening now that was happening 2 years ago.
But Greg, if I'm understanding correctly, really the only thing we have any control over is the building.
Well, it's a conditional use, and the building was on the plan, and I don't have to defer to the attorney. I'm not going to practice law here tonight.
Sorry.
But I would imagine that you could, if they were to come in and say, I want to put in these hollow core panels, and they showed you the diagram of how it was going to work and where they were going to be placed and where the fume scrubber was located, and that they were going to sulfonate the lift stations, and that was part of the conditional use, that would track just like the building track. Now, what do you think?
I think you could do that.
Okay.
And how do you get a guarantee?
That's my concern.
I don't think there, if you had the fellow from the head wastewater guy in the universe standing here, or the state guy from DWQ standing there with Eddie, he's gonna probably tell you what Mike said. There's no 100% guarantee that your septic tank isn't gonna smell on a hot day when you've got a lot of people in the house and it's working, the way it's working as hard as it can. So. And they're not going to guarantee you that there's no odor coming out of the wastewater. But there's certainly things that can be done, and were discussed here tonight, that will mitigate it.
There's also the danger, a building over a plant is a bad idea, because of a hurricane coming in and knocking the building down, it could happen, it's a matter of time, or a tornado. But the concrete panels, they won't go anywhere, I don't care. The wind blows for 300 miles an hour.
Okay. So because the plan that's before us currently does not have those on there, one option that we do have as a board is that they would be, if we're moving in the direction of approving a plan without the building, can we add those? Can we require that be added as a condition?
Well, you can, but we're a little bit indefinite right now about exactly what those plans are and how it would happen, and certainly, one of the concerns was some kind of time frame to get this done. So, as Greg has suggested it, and I know some folks want to get this done tonight, but maybe you're not in position to do it tonight. But in a short period of time, you could have a site plan with all those things on it to look at, and some idea of how long it would take to accomplish all that, and that could enter into your decision about how you proceed.
And procedurally, if that's a direction that we're going to get that type of information, which and has a little more teeth than just saying not a building and do what you think is going to work. Procedurally, so I'd have to go back to the planning board, and can it be directly for time, come back here?
You can do it here. You can just postpone this decision to a date certain and come back and see what you have at that point in time.
And does that pick back up as a public hearing as well? We
You
could
can-
set it like that?
That's right.
Okay.
You can continue your public hearing on this until that date as well.
And table until you get, right, okay.
You guys
Until you
understand
get
all the
one.
questions I'm asking?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Madam Mayor, may I suggest that you put the decision about how long it's going to take back on the people that will have to do the work? Arbitrarily say it's going to take 30 days or 60 days or 2 days. I don't know. That would be something that they could meet with our meeting schedule. When's the next time you could get us back a plan that would show what you discussed here tonight? A week?
Okay, so we meet again on the 21st. Does that give, so they get it back to you in a week
We don't have enough time to advertise it, do we?
for a public
That doesn't
hearing?
work.
No. It would have to be the meeting after that,
The June 9th.
June 9th, yeah. Because you have to have, how many weeks to advertise? I forget, but anyway.
Well, it's not gonna work, the
Right.
21st. But it
So-
would work for June 9th.
It would, okay. So, yeah, I guess a motion could be made to table this and then to revisit it at a public hearing on the 9th of June?
We could do that. I would like with the motion, with the or I don't know if that needs to be with the motion or side, but what specifically we're asking to be done between now and then, so we're not back here on June 9th without any further information and not able to make a decision.
To come with a site plan which would include how these conditions that we talked about tonight, the polycore panels, how the fume scrubber is going to hook up with that, how you're going to pull the air through, the chemicals that are placed in the lift stations. Was there anything else involved in that, Greg?
I think that was what was discussed.
And you know, maybe some information about, you know, I know Mike thinks this is going to work, but somebody from DWQ that might think this is going to work and that this is a good idea.
Yeah, that may take us a little longer than.
I understand, but
The
certainly
engineering
try to
is
get that.
essentially done. We were just basically waiting to submit it to see how this went tonight.
And
Right.
one thing was a temporary repair too
Yeah.
that someone brought up. That might be a good idea.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we could talk to the operator tomorrow and see if we can get something done on that.
Well, I think if you were back before us on June 9th with a plan that included that, and even if you weren't able to submit the documentation when you submit the plan, but like the attorney suggested, kind of an outside opinion on how that works.
Sure, I think
But
that's
also
possible.
if the citizens saw or noticed, and I understand you can't guarantee the smell's gonna be gone, it won't be, I mean, there's gonna be days, it just happens. But I think if they did see some steps were taken between now and the time you're coming back on the 9th as well, that would be a great thing.
Okay, all right.
So, okay, so,
This is a continuation.
Mike, you talked about a motion, did you want to make an official motion?
I wanted to see, get the consensus of the board if we make it.
I think if we're updating a conditional use permit, then we need to have something that we're going to update it with. So I think we're in the right direction.
So if I made a motion, could somebody help me with the wording on that?
Steve?
You want to make a motion to continue this public hearing and decision until June the 9th, and ask them to come back with revisions to their site plan that include those matters we just talked about, the holocore panels, how the fumigator is going to, fume scrubber is going to work with that, the chemicals in the lift stations, and some documentation to go with that. That's a plan that's likely to succeed.
And I'd add the temporary repairs too.
And in the interim, do the temporary repair on that toward.
Okay, I'll make a motion what he said. Harry, did you get that? Did you get enough of that to word it for us? Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it.
All right, I'll
second that. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you guys for your giving us the information, and we'll look forward to seeing you again in June, okay? We'll try to get this thing taken care of quickly as possible.
So, we will close the first public hearing then, because it's tabled now. Okay, so now we will call the second public hearing to order. And this hearing is called for the purpose of the board to receive comments on amendment to Chapter 153 zoning. This is proposed amendment to 153 zoning, Section 153.073F, landscaping requirements, perimeter, all right, sorry. Perimeter landscaping areas to clarify perimeter landscaping requirements for commercial sites. Greg, calling you, please.
Well, that last one was easy. Thank you, Madam Mayor. As the mayor said, this public hearing is open to clarify the perimeter landscaping requirements for both buffers between incompatible uses and ornamental landscaping along property lines. There has been some confusion, and our language needs clarification. The amendment really doesn't change the number of plants required, but rather clarifies that when a buffer between incompatible uses is required, and how buffer plantings can satisfy the ornamental landscaping requirements. Currently, you can put up a fence for a buffer, or you can plant landscaping for a buffer. And sometimes, the way our ordinance was written, you may think that You can't use the perimeter landscaping for buffer if you decide to use a buffer in landscaping rather than a fence. So this hopefully will clarify that. And this also establishes that required landscaping will have to be between the property line and any fence. And it allows the ornamental plantings to be planted in more of a natural fashion rather than being spaced evenly, required they be spaced evenly. And finally, it relocates the landscaping requirements for sites fronting US 158 from the commercial building exterior section of the code to the landscaping section of the code, which is a big improvement for somebody trying to work through it. And April 1st, the planning board forwarded this proposed amendment, recommended approval, and staff recommends approval after the public hearing.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone, we didn't have a, I don't think we had a sign-up sheet. No one signed up. Is there anyone that would like to speak on this public hearing, this item? Okay. Open the floor for questions or discussion? Questions?
No, I think it's good.
It's pretty much what we had asked for staff to look at and do after this came up before, so, okay.
Thanks.
Then a motion would be in order.
I'll make a motion that we approve the proposed amendment as presented. And I would like to also note that the proposed amendment to 153.073 parentheses F, landscaping requirements, perimeter landscaping areas, to clarify perimeter landscaping requirements for commercial sites is consistent with all comprehensive plans and other official adopted plans of the town of Killable Hills that are applicable. The amendment is reasonable and in the public interest because it will further enhance the town's aesthetics and provide adequate buffers between incompatible uses.
I'll second that.
Any other comments or discussion? All those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay. And we'll close that public hearing and move on to our third public hearing this evening. And this public hearing is being called to order for the purpose of the board receiving comments on proposed amendment to Chapter 153 zoning, Section 153.070P, stormwater management. This is to clarify stormwater management requires to be completed within the public rights of way. One more time, Greg, please.
Ma'am. Again, we're amending Chapter 153, and this particular amendment deals with stormwater management requirements that are not on the site, but within the public right-of-way. So my good friend Steve Albright and Tony Patrick are helpful in this because when you build a house or a structure in Killable Hills, you may have to put in a culvert or a swale to match it with our approved stormwater management plan. So this is an integral part of our ordinance, and it goes between two departments. Well, our town attorney, it was brought to our attention in one of our previous meetings, our town attorney asked that we clarify our language, and basically what you have before you tonight does that. It adds adjoining to right-of-ways and related to the drainage improvements and as required by public services to some of the language that we had before that was antiquated, and it talked about the Department of Public Works, which doesn't exist. So we basically cleaned up this section of the ordinance, and the planning board recommended approval on April 15th, 2014. So staff recommends approval as submitted.
Great, thank you. And Harriet, was there anyone who signed up for this? Okay, is there anyone in the audience that wants to speak at this public hearing? Okay. Discussion, comments?
No, that's one we covered before, and we got what we asked for. The staff took good, and the attorney took good care of that for us.
Okay, then a motion would be in order.
I'll make a motion that the proposed amendment to 153.070 stormwater management to clarify stormwater management requirements to be completed within public right-of-ways is consistent with all comprehensive plans and other official adopted plans of the town of Killable Hills that are applicable. The amendment is reasonable and in the public interest because it requires stormwater management within adjacent public right-of-ways to aid in drainage for streets and other public infrastructure.
I'll second that.
Any other comments or discussion? All those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, so the public hearings will all be closed, and we will move now into public comment. This is the time that's set aside this evening. This is the first public comment time. This is where anyone who wishes to address the board on any topic can do so. Again, we still ask, though, that you would respect timelines. If you're speaking as an individual, to please keep your comments to 3 minutes. And if you're speaking on behalf of a group, if you could limit those comments to 5 minutes, please. We'll go back to this sign-up list and go in order. If you didn't sign up, that's okay, then I'll call from the floor. But first, welcome Bob Schiffer. If you would approach the podium, and when you do, identify yourself by name and address, please.
I would waive my time to do that until after.
Okay, the second public comment time.
Yes.
Certainly, no problem. Okay, Mike Lowak. Thanks, Bob.
Mike Lowak, 106 Porthole Court. Good evening. Basically, tonight I'm here to ask you to reconsider last meeting's decision on the flags. I know after hearing everything about the wastewater treatment plan and the buffers and all that, that this may seem a little trivial and insignificant, but in my opinion, the board did charge the Public Appearance Committee, which is, if I believe correctly, made up of 7 people. They were all for some sort of regulation, or as I like to call it, having some rule in order so everybody gets treated fairly. Then it went through the planning board, that's another 5 citizens. And then when it came up to here, I didn't think there was going to be a non-favorable decision on the issues. I know 2 inches on the fray, interpretations of things like that. But my biggest concern has always been in life that if you're going to allow something, it should be equally applied. And that means the people that do the good job with the flags, they should at least have some assurances that their neighbor, who's also allowed to have flags, have the same, and the appearance of our community remains the highest, which I think is all of our goals. Thank you all very much.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak at this public comment time? Yes, Howard.
Howard Kimball, 803 West Sportsman Drive. I just want to say a couple of words about the conditional site plan for the wastewater treatment plant. When y'all start these things, you always talk about the planning board reviewed this and okayed it, and all the planning board was dealing with was whether to replace the building or not. And but we spent a lot of time talking about the smell, and they indicated that they had a pool cover over it that when these gases were formed, it would actually blow up the and then they were going to invert the scrubber and suck that off. So apparently they didn't do any of that, but that wasn't part of what the planning board had approved, because that's not what they had asked for. So I just want to make it clear to the audience that the planning board, we wasn't just sitting on our hands up there. You know, we did ask the important questions, but we did agree, and I still agree that the putting the building up there is probably not a good idea. But the building that used to be up there had a rack of filters that filtered the air before it exited the building. And that was our concern about what do we do about the stink. So this probably wasn't the proper time to bring this up, but I just thought I would throw that out there. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Howard.
Thank you, Howard. For those of you who don't know, Mr. Kimball's chairman of the planning board. They did a good job on that. I was at that meeting, and they did spend quite a bit of time talking about the odor, but that wasn't an issue in the issue itself. It was before them.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak at public comment? Yes.
James Almany, 113 Porthole Court. I actually have a couple questions or kind of follow-up to for a couple issues that have been at previous meetings. The first one is I was wondering where the process is for the CrossFit. We haven't heard anything more about that, and I was hoping that maybe we could get some kind of update. And my second question is in regards to the Frisbee golf. I know that there was some conversation about separating that from the other ideas that the town had for the bomb track, and I know they were looking for a right-of-way, and whether that had been approved. And if all that has gone forward, then what's the situation as far as have we been in contact with the family that offered money to have it in their son's name? And you know, what the process is going forward as far as the time frame for building that. Thanks.
I know. Oh, go ahead.
Got to go back to the order.
Yeah. Okay.
Is there anyone else this evening that would like to speak at public comment? Okay. Then we will move to response to public comment. Let's see. And Mike Lewack spoke first. I believe, do you want to?
I can address that. Mike, I do plan on bringing a revised portion of that back in during the commissioner's agenda. So stay tuned.
Okay. And then thank you for your comments, Howard. James, I can address the CrossFit, and then if you want to address the
No, go
golf. The town is aware that CrossFit Outer Banks has opened at Lake Drive, and they have done so without obtaining a temporary or permanent certificate of occupancy. At this time, the town is considering its options for addressing the issue, but that's as far as I can go into at this point.
Regarding the disc golf, I had spoken to Greg earlier today, and I was planning on bringing it up at the commissioner's agenda, and he's going to speak about it a little bit then, and then I will. Is that okay? We'll talk about it a little bit later. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, let's move into introductions and presentations. And first up this evening, under introductions and presentations, we have a group of students here from the First Flight High School who has a presentation to share with us as part of their civics program. So welcome, is it all gentlemen? If you all would please come up to the podium and introduce yourselves, and then you're welcome to start in with your presentation.
Ian Kenny, 1506 Monument Lane. Hi, I'm Bo Douglas. Back near 111 Mybat Court.
Wade Cobb, 4218 Cobb's Way. And we're from First Light High School, and we're here to propose a project on providing porta potties at all public beach accesses in Cordova Hills.
If you guys want, sometimes it's difficult to work the remote. If you want to signal to Greg, he can move it for you. That might work a little better.
In Cordova Hills, we have lots of lifeguards, plenty of parking and showers, but we are lacking bathrooms.
Our solution is a bathhouse our ideal solution would be a bathhouse at every beach access, but obviously this is cost prohibitive, and also there probably isn't enough space. But our solution is a porta potty at every beach access, and this solves this problem while being cost effective, simple to just get into motion, and a quick way to solve the problem. Our proposed iteration of this project would cost approximately $7,560, and this represents a little over 1/20% of Cordova Hills 2013-2014 fiscal year projected general fund revenues, which is a very small portion for a pretty easy to solve problem.
The aim of this project is have like a better experience for all the tourists that come down here. Because I know many of the tourists that come down here, they go to the beach and they stay there all day. And it's just a pain going in, parking, and then having to go out if they need to go to the bathroom. Because I know it's not really nice if the tourists are using the bathroom out in the water because of the families, the children, and all that. And I just think it'd be better service than having porta potties there instead of having to leaving every time they need to go to the bathroom.
So basically our proposal is porta potty at every beach access with a lifeguard service. And so that it excludes the Ocean Bay. And so this would occur from May to October. So.
And maintenance, which is obviously a big problem with porta potties and keeping the smell down, which we've already had a lot of discussion about. And that would be the discretion of the company the porta potties are rented from, and it would be at the discretion of the company. So you could just set up whatever plan you want with them. And then NAGSTED also has a program similar to this, so you can maybe start a collective or just get a lower rate overall by going in cooperatively.
Justification: having bathrooms at beach accesses should be an unexpected service for all beachgoers, including the public employees asked to forego without them.
So yeah, we've discussed the cost, but yeah, it's relatively cheap on the overall scale of the budget we have for Killable Hills. So yeah, it's $70 a month for regular porta potties, but we probably want to consider the handicapped accessible porta potties just to accommodate those that do have do need those type of amenities. And so yeah, it's roughly $7,500 annually. And just something to add in, we are funded, our entire strip of land is funded mostly from the time of May to October. That's when we have most of our business. And if we could accommodate those better that are coming down here, and with the possibility of generating more revenue, I think that the turnoff is relatively high. So I think it's a good idea.
Some of the benefits of our project is just cleaner and more family-friendly beaches. Because obviously it's just a little easier for parents with small children and such. And it's also just meeting the same standards held for many other public and recreational events and just businesses, just wherever you'd be out in the town. And it meets basic sanitary needs for Killable Hills Ocean Rescue employees and also other employees that are asked to work at the beach at some times. And just a better experience for all beachgoers and a further refinement of just the already world-renowned beach experience that we provide.
Cost-benefit analysis. By footing the minuscule bill of our project, the town can provide a huge benefit to the overall beach experiences for thousands of visitors and residents alike.
So do you guys have any questions or concerns?
Great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Great. Any questions or comments for the group?
How many porta potties is that per beach access?
Well, it's really variable. That's providing one, but at a lot of beach accesses, they already don't have a lot of parking spots, so it makes sense to have one. And then at larger ones like Cayman or Asheville or First Street, maybe you could have two, depending on space and just general traffic through that beach access.
Any comments or questions?
Oh, it's good. It's good. Very
Yeah.
good. Thanks, you guys.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it very much.
Thanks for coming out.
It's a nice report.
Thank you. Well done.
Very good.
I didn't realize how appropriate it was to be talking about this topic tonight. Okay, all right. Well, let's move on to some very exciting awards, and we also have a resolution here. But the next item under introductions and presentations is several awards, police department awards, and the adoption of the National Police Week resolution. And please note the revised handouts in your packet. So, Assistant Chief, welcome.
Hello, Dana Harris, Assistant Chief, Kildover Hills Police Department. Mayor, members of the board, I'm honored to be here to give these awards out to these guys. A lot of our guys deserve a lot more awards than are given out. I'm a little biased. I think you got some of the best police officers that I know in the profession here working for y'all, so I'll say that start off with on that. The first award I'd like to talk about is one that the VFW wants to give, and I would like to call Jim Norrell, Quartermaster, and Clark Twitty, Commander of the VFW, up to give the award and explain it.
Hello, Mayor and fellow commissioners and citizens of Dare County, not fellow commissioners. My name is Clark Twitty on behalf of the Veterans of Foreign Wars. Thank you for the opportunity to join you tonight. I'm here with Jim Norrell. Also in the back are Brian Kelly and Billy Brown. So the Veterans of Foreign Wars is an organization comprised of former service members who have gone overseas in support of their nation and fought our country's wars. And one of the best parts of being in this organization is the opportunity that once we are out of the armed services, we can participate in a veterans organization that still reflects some of the things we hold most dear, like a love of country and a service, an unselfish service rather to country, and really a dedication to duty that we admire so much. We have an award tonight that comes in the way of a story. We've tried to surprise someone. So this is going to be good if you'll bear with us just for a moment. So Captain Evans, if you would be so kind to join us just for a moment. We're going to try and embarrass you just a little bit because I know how modest you are. So, Veterans of Foreign Wars has a post just down the street at Fresh Pond Road, and we have a couple of great awards. So to start with, we have a wonderful award for you because, well, let me explain. Everybody in the room knows, and I hope if you don't, this is a great opportunity. Captain Evans walks around real quietly, and in the performance of his duty saves people's lives every day. And that's exactly what the veterans community loves to see. So we were able to nominate and get him an award for our local post. So Captain Evans, here is a post from the local Post 10950 Veterans of Foreign Wars Certificate of Appreciation, in short, for being you and all the things that you do. So thank you. Now I'm going to put my hat on for this one. So, as the story continues, we're also part of a district. So there are lots of posts in North Carolina, and we have District 1, which is northeastern North Carolina. We recommended Captain Evans for our district award. On behalf of District 1, northeastern North Carolina Veterans of Foreign Wars, please accept our award for the Policeman of the Year for northeastern North Carolina. As the story continues, Captain Evans, we also have a state organization. North Carolina Veterans of Foreign Wars is happy to present Captain Evans as our law enforcement state gold medal winner for 2013 and 2014. Thank you very much. Now, folks, this is one I'm particularly proud of. The Veterans of Foreign Wars, as we know, comprises 1.4 million members in 50 states. Captain Evans' name rose amongst those 50 states, and we are absolutely delighted as an organization tonight to present the VFW National Law Enforcement Award to Captain Evans from Kill Devil Hills, North Carolina. Wow. So 1.4 million people, 50 states, you are the very embodiment of the things we stand for. So thank you very much. That award also comes with a cash award. We'll talk about that in a minute. Who doesn't have a cash award? But Mrs. Mayor, Commissioners, and fellow citizens, thank you for the opportunity to join you tonight, and I hope we can all be proud of the police officers of that kind of caliber that serve us each and every day. Thank you for your time.
My name is Jim Norrell, quartermaster. I'd just like to mention that this was as a result of the written request that was put into the Kill Devil Hills Police Department for their selection. And thanks to Deputy Chief Harris, everything he submitted was top grade and went right up the line. And it's the first time we've had something state and national from this area. So from this small post that we have here, it's remarkable. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
See, I told you I was proud of my guys.
Absolutely, and we are too.
All of them. And I don't think you're blushing right there. So. Okay. Next, what I would like to do is ask Officer Rusk and Officer Liberman to come up and stand beside me, please. Just give you a little background on what's going on. Back on April 27th, 2014, approximately 6:16 p.m., Officer Rusk and Officer Liverman responded to a call. It was up here at the Kangaroo, and what it was a man dying. He collapsed. They arrived there in a very short period of time, and when they got there, he was on the floor, non-responsive. So as they got there, Officer Liverman started CPR, and Officer Rusk went and got our AED, our defibrillator, and went in and attached it to the subject, which at that time stated he needed to be defibrillated. They did so and brought him back. At that time, the EMS and fire departments were there to assist. He was transported to the hospital and then flown to Norfolk, which my understanding, the last I heard, he was still recovering. He was doing real good. So that was another case of our AEDs and being there quickly to get them resuscitated. So with that, I'd like to give them one, the commendation of the Life Saving Award medal. I'd like to give each one of them, Officer Rusk and Officer Little. Also with that comes a ribbon, which they can proudly wear on their uniforms. There's statewide, and each one of them get that will go in their uniform. Now, I just, like I said, they took the time to get up there. They rushed up there. They did what they could, and I'm just proud of them for doing that. And I just want to thank them. And I just want to thank the commissioners, the general public, the mayor, everybody, and businesses that have donated money to get these AEDs. Saga was instrumental in getting a lot of that money up to us so we can get them in the cars so they could do this. And I just really appreciate it, and Bob would speak on that a little bit more shortly. Again, thank you guys very much. I have one more. I'm not reading all this stuff cheap, but I'm going to read. I'm kind of making it short. So. Okay. If Officer Tyler would please step up here beside me, please. It's Officer Daddy, but Tyler's first name. So. There he is. And he's a little bit taller than me too. So, okay. This here, I'll give you a little brief story on this. Tyler, I'm gonna call him Tyler. It's Officer Daddy, but I'll call him Tyler. He's a hard worker, and through his works and stuff, back in December 2013, Officer Tyler began a narcotics distribution investigation, which included gathering information on duty as well as off duty. Through his investigative efforts, Officer Daddy learned one of the subjects involved was a target of our narcotics task force. Officer Diety gained further evidence confirming that narcotics were being sold at a particular residence in Kildover Hills. Officer Diety continued his investigation and contacted members of the CID Criminal Investigation Division. And through surveillance, they were able to seize some narcotics and currency during that. Then back in February of 2014, Officer Diety conducted a traffic stop of a vehicle departing that residence. At that time, he also got some 2 occupants for possession of narcotics. Well, ongoing, a few weeks later, we had a home invasion there, a violent home invasion at that particular residence. Through his diligent efforts and know what was going on, he was able to help the CID and instrumental in locating the subjects that did this and taking them into custody. So for that, I'd like to give him the police commendation ribbon. Is that for his diligence of work. So. Along with that, he gets a ribbon that he can wear on his uniform too. Thank you very much. Again, I want to thank everybody for what they've done. I'd like for Bob to step up here shortly and state there's another award that they want to do, and he's going to explain it. It's a kind of a long-term award that will be going on. But again, please thank y'all, citizens, for all the time, donations, everything y'all done to help make all this possible, for especially the AEDs. Bob, if you would step up here and you introduce them.
Thank you. It's really a pleasure to be here to follow in the footsteps of these commendations and the outstanding service that these officers have been able to proceed with. It's been almost a year since we've been here and started the AED program. And it behooves me to thank the Saga folks for doing this, and particularly in light of the fact that Amit Gupta, the president of Saga, is here this evening. I would like him to just stand up and have everyone sort of see him. He's very shy, but I believe he was the individual that made the comment, that asked the question, what would it take to put an AED in every car on the banks? And as a result of that, we instituted the program to accomplish that. And that is our goal. And we have to, I think, bear in mind that if it wasn't for Amit asking that question, I probably wouldn't have never thought of it. So thank you for pursuing that and allowing us to pursue that goal. We're not there yet, and we still have a ways to go. But I think it's significant that it all began here, and it began in honoring Captain Evans for saving our friend, and very appreciative of his family that he was able to live with us for 7 months longer and become the face and the inspiration behind the AED program. And that obviously is Dewey Parr III. Dewey didn't make it, but he made it long enough for us all to be inspired. And as a result, Saga would like to perpetuate that memorial and establish what basically is an award that would be given to a plaque that would be given to the town of Kill Devil Hills and all of the other towns in which an AED is used to save a life. And that would be the Saga Community Achievement Award that would be given to the town to perpetuate in the memory of Dewey Parr III for his contribution of being the face and the like and the kindness, selflessness that he prevailed in becoming the individual who stimulated and assisted us in raising the funds for the AEDs. So I just wanted to say that. And the Saga Community Recognition Award for life-saving by police officers using the AED is the key to this, and it will help us to continue further raising funds for this purpose. And so the award is not ready yet, but it will be produced, and we will look forward to having it, and we would like all of the officers who have participated in this to be recognized and to memorialize that in the remembrance of Dewey Parr III. So I just wanted to say that. So thank you for that opportunity.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Amit and Saga, thank you as well.
Thank you.
Dana, do you want to do one more thing before you go, or do you want to introduce the resolution, or would you like for me to introduce the resolution?
Mayor, I'd like for you
Would
to.
you like me to do it? Okay, I would be happy
I'm
to
proud
do
of
that.
it.
Absolutely. And before I do that, what a highlight of the evening, certainly the awards. Wow, local, state, and national awards. Captain Evans, that's remarkable. Thank you. And Officers Rusk and Liverman, thank you all for your service and certainly for your heroic efforts. And Officer Dowdy, congratulations. And thank you for the diligence. I know before one of my previous jobs was working in substance abuse and working with those battling addiction. And so there's lots of items that encompass addiction, but certainly supply is one of those. So I really appreciate all of your efforts. It's huge. And we do have a resolution before us. It's a proclamation designating May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day and the week of May 11th through the 17th as Police Week. So we would like to basically to honor the Kittle Hills Police Department and all law enforcement officers across the United States. We would like to, or I would like to see if you guys would be willing to adopt the attached proclamation designating May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day and the week of May 11th through 17th as Police Week.
So moved?
Second.
Any discussion?
No.
All those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thank you. And thank all of our officers and law enforcement employees. We have a number that came out to support one another tonight, and so thank you guys for the work that you do.
Yes, thank
It's
you very much.
appreciated.
Absolutely.
And for the families that support the officers, there are quite a few here as well. So thank you guys. Okay. Next, under introductions and presentations, we have Ms. Sue Kelly. She is the chair of the Community Appearance Commission. If you all recall at the last meeting, she handed out the kind of the highlights for the annual report, and we had asked if she would actually come back before us and present those. I think, as you will hear in a few minutes, for just basically a committee that's been in action for approximately a year, there's been a significant amount of work that's been done. So I don't want to steal any of your thunder. If you would just please share your report with us.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Sue Kelly. I live at 211 Sea Village Lane in Kill Devil Hills. I've had the great experience this last year and a half of working with the Community Appearance Commission. And I want to say thanks to the board for creating this commission and also for putting some really fine people on it. We have worked together really well. We've enjoyed each other. It's a great combination of folks with a lot of ideas to bring forth. And we've been working really hard on this issue of we look great now, how can we look even better? But I would like to mention quickly the names of the people who are on the Community Appearance Commission. Bambo Sharablomles, Skip Jones, who is here tonight. Skip, raise your hand. Chris Merrick, Melinda Magowski, Clay Richardson, Priscilla Shea, and our liaison from the planning board is Chip Almany, who's also here tonight. So I also want to take this time really quickly, but not less importantly, to thank the staff. We just had Trash Attack on Saturday, and I think those of us who participated in this had a lot of fun and feel like we did a really good thing for the town. It was great. And that project took a lot of people, a lot of volunteers, and it also got a lot of help from our staff, a tremendous amount. Now, I'm not going to mention everybody's staff person by name. People who know me know I have this real memory problem, and I'd probably forget somebody. But I just want to say I think Kill Devil Hills has a super fine staff. I know the Community Appearance Commission could not do what it's trying to do without the help of the staff. So the code regulations that you adopted when you created the Community Appearance Commission provide for an annual report. So that's what you have in front of you. It was prepared much closer to the first of the year, but you are now seeing it. I want to mention one thing about the CAC, as we call ourselves. We are not interested in adding a bunch of new regulations to the town. I think that is something we wish to avoid. We'll do it. We'll present them to either you guys directly or to the planning board and then to you all as we see appropriate. But we're not really, gung-ho about seeing a whole lot of new regulations. We feel very good about what we've been able to accomplish. I hope this report is relatively clear to you. There have been some updates on this, but I think it's entirely up to you. I'll be glad to answer questions, but the time frame, I might suggest that if any of you would like to talk to me more specifically about some of these items on here or where they might stand right now, I'll be glad to do that anytime you feel that you want to do it, and not necessarily tonight. Now the harder work begins. Most of the things that we took up during this past year were things that came out in a forum that the board holds on a regular basis. They were ideas presented by citizens, and we had other ideas presented to us, and we were able to address those. Now we feel like the harder part comes. We need ideas about what can be done to make Kill Devil Hills even better looking than it is now. So we need your help. So anybody that you know that has an idea that would like to present it, get it to the Community Appearance Commission, we will figure out a way for you to easily be able to do that. I said this before, I'm going to say it again. We think KDH looks great, and we're going to work hard to make it look its very best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you. Comments or questions about anything you've seen in the report or the work of the CAC?
No, I'd just like to say also, Sue, people will welcome new ideas, and we'd also like to hear people's opinions on some of the things we're already working on to, determine the support for, following through on some of the ideas. And I think that there's always new ideas out there too. We're welcome to hear those, but we'd like to hear how they feel about the ones we've been working on. Thank you so much for what you've done.
Thank you.
And Sue, I would like to say a personal thank you to you for the leadership that you provide to that committee. You do an excellent job. I sit in on meetings when I can, and your leadership is excellent to that group. And it's a great group of volunteers around the table. And when you look at this list of issues that they have addressed, and you think about some of the improvements or things that have happened over the last year, for example, right now the most prominent thing is the sidewalks that are going in. It's bringing citizens together to start the conversation to say, well, what can we do? What's a short-term vision? It's basically projects like that come out of the input that we're getting. And it's probably easy to think that we may know all of the issues because, hey, we were elected, we sit in these seats, we should know everything, but the reality is we can't. And so it is so important to hear from citizens. Prime example was tonight at the public hearing, to hear from citizens about an issue to them that may not, had they not been here, there may not have been the same outcome. So I just use that as an illustration to say how valuable it is to have you all as volunteers, and for what you do for the town of Kittleville Hills is so appreciated. So thank you, and thank your committee members.
Well, you're very welcome. And let me just also say that you have been at just about every meeting we've had, and Commissioner Hogan has been at most of them as well. So we thank you very much for your willingness to put us on your busy schedules.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, we do not have any old business on the agenda this evening, so we'll move. We have a couple of items under new business. The first is we have 2 appointments, 2 committees. One is to the Dangerous Animal Appeal Board, and the other is to the Street Improvements and Special Projects Committee. Mayor Pro Tem, would you like to handle those?
Sure, I can do that.
Okay.
The Dangerous Animal Appeals Board, DAB as we call it, there's a position held by Sue Kelly, currently on the board, and the regular term expires in June, and Sue has expressed her desire to be reappointed to the Dangerous Animal Appeals DAB. And I would also like to mention that Street Improvements and Special Projects Committee, Carl Liebno was a member of the committee, and he's moved from the Outer Banks to Georgia and will no longer be serving on the SISPC. And I'd like to nominate Chris Shea to be appointed to the Street Improvements and Special Projects Committee. So we could have one motion to reappoint Sue Kelly to the Animal Board, and to appoint Chris Shea to the Street Improvements Committee. I'll make that a motion.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any questions or discussion? All those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Thank you, Sue, for your additional service to the town. And I think Chris will be a great asset to the street improvements. Thank you. Okay, next under new business is the presentation of the town manager's recommended budget for fiscal year 2014-2015.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. I think at your places you will find in the red notebook the 2014-15 fiscal year recommended budget. It is in accordance with the provisions of North Carolina General Statute 15913 that the governing board shall adopt a budget ordinance no earlier than 10 days after the budget's presented to you, and not later than July 1st. Before adopting the budget ordinance, the Board of Commissioners will need to hold a public hearing, at which time any person or persons who wish to be heard on the recommended budget may appear. This hearing may be held at any time after the budget's been presented to you, either prior to or subsequent to the board budget work session. Historically, you have held a budget work session prior to the public hearing, and if that would be the desire of the board this evening, staff would recommend that work session Wednesday, May the 21st at 5:30, which is the date and time of the second regular meeting this month. That was a consensus item that the board had determined earlier, and we will discuss that a little bit on the consent agenda. Then I would recommend that you would schedule your public hearing for Monday, May the 9th, 2014 at 5:30. If additional time was needed after the first budget work session, you could either hold another one before the public hearing, or you could hold it that evening prior to the public hearing, or any time before the end of June when the budget would need to be adopted.
Thank you. Questions for Debbie? Okay, and just a little bit of, since we have, for the benefit of some of our newer commissioners, because I know my first year receiving the budget and trying to feel the process out, it's intentionally just presented to us tonight, and then there's time between now and when we schedule the work session for you to review it if you have questions, and that's for all of us, though. Our finance director, you can reach out to her or the staff, certainly Debbie as well, and she may direct us to Beverly. But also, you can come prepared with your list of questions, and we can work through that on May 21st. I do know, because we had a pretty significant list from our capital improvement workshop, that it'll be interesting to see what they were able to incorporate in here, and then we can have an opportunity at that work session to follow up on those items. And then we'll just see how it goes on the 21st. And I do think the plan is laid out well, where we have the work session on the 21st. Go ahead and do tonight, schedule this public hearing for the June 9th. Because if we do hear from citizens and we decide after that public hearing to have another budget workshop, we still have plenty of time before our second meeting in June. And I think between your comfort level, our comfort level on May 21st, and at the public hearing will really dictate whether or not we want to schedule that second one. And if we do, we can schedule it at any time, just sometime before we would need to be taking action by the end of the month. So.
What is our second date for June?
Second date in June?
It's the 25th.
25th, okay. And it has to be done by the 30th.
Yes.
Right. Yes. Okay. And if a motion would be in order then, to schedule the budget work session and the budget public hearing.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, any questions or comments, discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next we'll move into Commissioner's agenda. Commissioner Midget?
Nothing today.
Thank you. Commissioner Appleman?
Matter of fact, I do.
Okay. Is Mike still here?
So at the last meeting, we had considerable discussion on the proposed flag ordinance. And since then, I've done some driving up and down the road and just really taken note of, I think, of where our flags are, the number of flags, the condition of some of those flags. What I'd like to propose is that we revisit the proposed changes to that ordinance. What I would propose is that we would remove the maximum number of flags for each business and to the shopping centers, and change the amount of damage that could be done by each flag, done to each flag, to about 50% of the overall original width of that flag. I think that would be a little easier to be able to spot from a moving vehicle versus the inch or 2 inch tear fray conversation that we had at the prior meeting. 50% damage is pretty apparent, and you drive by some of the businesses now, and that's where in my opinion, that's where a lot of the lack of appeal is there. So.
Comments? With Commissioner Appleman's suggestion?
Sounds a little better.
So, specifically, I don't know if we can put the ordinance up, but we would remove, what I'm understanding you're proposing is to remove the language that states 1 and 2 inch and replace that with 50% of the original size of the flag?
Size.
If there's a tear or fray that's 50% or greater?
Yes.
Instead of 1 to 2 inches?
Yes.
Is that, okay. But then you also mentioned you wanted to remove, we're getting there,
remove the statement of where you've got 2 decorative flags per single business, or 1 per business if you're in a shopping center.
And if we remove that, it stays what it is now.
You're essentially adding the language that the damage is something that could then be reacted to.
So we eliminate
C.
to C,
Mhm.
totally C, okay.
And that was a new, with this being created, that was new, so
Yes.
it would keep it like it is currently for businesses.
No minimum.
No minimum.
Excuse
I
me,
mean-
no maximum.
No maximum, right.
But there is a,
It's 2 decorative flags
Per business.
It is now. Okay.
That's what it is now, yeah.
As long as they do not
So
exceed
what changes
24
is
square
the,
feet.
Within a shopping center.
Within
Is the shopping center.
Two flags per business may be displayed as long as they do not exceed 24 square feet. The last time we need to, that's strictly.
2 flags per business may be displayed as long as they do not exceed 24 square feet each.
Okay,
That's
so are
correct.
you, then well, let me find out if we're consistent. Then if we go back to the way it has been, we would remove what we're seeing here as 2C and add back B2. And that would put it the way it was before. Otherwise, if you just eliminate C, then you've opened, you could put as many flags as you want out there.
Right.
Okay. Are you following what I just?
Well, what we could do is you take the first sentence in 2 that's marked through, the first sentence would stay gone, and you take the second sentence and make that C.
2 flags.
Okay.
Is that right?
Right.
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 We'll do this and send it to the board just to let you look at it before we actually bring it back at the meeting.
Okay.
It does need to come back. Yes.
Yeah, we need to come back to a meeting. to-
Before we do that, I would mind if I respond?
No, absolutely.
The goal of the Community Appearance Commission, who we just heard from, was to make things look better in the town. And that's my personal goal. And by doing what you're proposing, it would allow things to look worse, in my opinion, because you say if you have a 2-inch tear, you can't, but you can have an 8-inch tear if it's a 16-inch flag. Seems like we're going, if that were to be adopted, we'd be going away from what our intended goal was from the beginning.
Well, right now, we don't have the ability to react to damage of any amount. So we're adding that language and enforcement.
The way I interpret this is when we didn't take it, when nothing was approved the other week, at the last meeting, we did not add any strength to being able to enforce or change the appearance of the way flags are. And I know what your position is of really not wanting them out there as a way to enhance the look. But this at least takes a step, in my opinion, in the right direction of allowing some enforcement, whereas without this, people can do exactly what they want and what is happening now, whereas you have a flag that's dwindled away to become just a few strands of fabric, and we can't do anything about that right now. The staff, we can't, I mean, staff could go up and say, you know, would you please remove that, but it's not a violation of an ordinance, so we can't. So in my opinion, even though maybe this doesn't, it's not going to address everything completely, it is a step in the right direction to get things looking better with flags. Because if we did adopt this, if you had that same flag that we do have it right now at some of the businesses, that's just a frayed few strings, we now would be able to go say that flag has to be replaced or removed.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. It just seems to me we're condoning that kind of a look by making a rule that allows it.
Well, we would now,
No,
if we
well,
approve
I
this.
understand, but we're really, but we visited the issue because of the appearance, and we're ending up saying it's okay to have a flag that's 50% gone, which in my opinion is, if you left it like it was, then there wouldn't be an official kind of our board saying, well, it's okay to have a flag that really looks bad. It's kind of reinforcing the fact that it's okay to have an ugly flag.
I don't see it
It's
that
all-
way, but that's me.
Yeah, I understand.
I don't read that at all into this. I read it as we do care when we're trying to take a step
I
in
understand.
the right direction, but
I have a question. Why is the date so late of 2015? Why not, like, next month or something like that?
that was in originally put in there to try to give businesses who may have already purchased flags for the season and not budgeted on the replacement, to give them time to build into their budget replacement cost of flags if they needed to. It was really to try to be business friendly in the sense of, yes, we are adding a new ordinance or new language to an ordinance that may be interpreted as being stricter. It was really to give them an opportunity and not put something in place and then right after that enforce that.
But we can take that out if we're not going to limit the number of flags, correct?
Right.
There's no need to do that.
Right.
Well, C would be gone completely in this new revision.
Right.
Well,
C-
there would be a
C
new
would
C.
have-
C
There
would
would
just
be
be
a
the
new
two
C.
flags
That'd be
per
the second
business.
sentence.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So that would be eliminated.
And you think they should be completely gone, right?
Yeah, I do.
But you're talking about like the sale type flags?
Yeah, primarily the feather, they call it feather flags or sail flags, yeah.
We're gonna need to, staff's gonna need to, regroup on that C to make sure that date's not necessary. But we will send it to you prior to it coming back to you at the meeting.
Okay.
The reason for that, January 1, 2015, also, in addition to what the mayor stated, was if you've got somebody that they've ordered these flags thinking that it's okay because they're not regulated, this would at least give them a period of time that they could use it, which would be the season.
Sure.
Without just saying, oh, you know, they
Sorry.
ordered it, they just got it, sorry, you can't use it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But then they'd have a backup when it gets free.
So I guess with you bringing this up, Commissioner Appleman, it's a matter of, is there consensus? We would need at least consensus, doesn't have to be unanimous, but consensus to give the staff direction to modify the language as suggested. If there's not enough consensus to do that, we don't need to put our staff through a waste of time. But if there is, then that would be the appropriate step. They would come back and then bring it back to us. Let me ask a question while we're thinking about this. Does that require scheduling an additional public hearing?
No, this ordinance.
This is an ordinance.
So it's not,
Doesn't
we don't
require
have to,
public
okay,
hearing.
great. So we don't have to. And it doesn't have to go back through the planning board because of the level of.
Right, no, it's just,
Perfect, okay.
Okay.
So,
What's the motion?
is it, well, it's just, is there consensus?
I think I saw 4.
Do we have 4
Yeah.
wanting it to come
Haven't
back?
changed it.
Let's see, or okay with it coming back, okay.
Okay.
Okay. That's
Thank
all
you.
we need.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else this evening?
No, that was it for me.
Commissioner Rubin?
I just want to say thank you to the police officers and enjoy May the 15th. It's a great day. It's also a very sad day here in Dare County. We lost a fine officer on that day, but it's a somber day for us here. But it's also a day to definitely remember all the police officers here.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, I attended, myself and the bomb track committee attended a meeting with the company that we've hired as a consultant to work on the bomb track. The meeting was I think it was Thursday, wasn't it, Greg? The representatives came early in the day and they spent some time out on the site, and then they met with members of staff early in the afternoon, and the bomb track committee, we joined them at 3:30. And we had about an hour and a half long meeting and discussed their progress thus far. And they're gonna be get back to see us again in like August or September. They have their final report. You wanna let us know what happened before the committee got there?
Well, there was discussion about the area of the bomb track and bringing in Consulticon, which is the economist facet of this project. It's kind of hard to jump into it at this point because you have Clearscapes, who are landscape architects. You have Consulticon, who is an economist, firm, and then you have Surface 678, who is the overall vendor, if you will, who's managing the whole show. And they were all available either by phone or in person. And they've gone out with the biological element, George Wood, environmental professionals, and Mark Bissell, our surveying and engineering part of the team, and looked at the site and tried to understand with the uses that they knew about, which they started up like a table, you know, what could go and how much area it would take. And they quickly came to the understanding that it all will fit, you know, and which we kind of knew that going into it. The bomb track committee kind of knew that, but here's a list of things we'd like to see if possible. So they were trying to work with the staff that was attending and trying to say, well, what do you think that the bomb track committee wanted? You know, what was it your feeling? What's the flavor for it? And the commissioners. And so we were trying to relay that, and they were showing us a draft of their table and how their methodology was working, how they would make decisions on and prioritize and rank all those different opportunities that we have in terms of recreation on the bomb track. So about 3:15 or 10 after 3, the committee starts rolling in. So some of them were catching the tail end of our meeting before the 3:30 meeting started, and you know, and that was beneficial to some of the committee members that kind of picked up a little bit of the, you know, what the committee wanted. I mean, what the consultants wanted from staff. And then there was the interaction that Mike described with the bomb track committee. So they're on a pretty ambitious schedule to try to move everything forward. There's a lot of discussion about frisbee golf and disc golf, don't we call it, disc golf, and how that could be integrated without changing the whole process of what Consulticon and Surface 678 is working for. And we agreed that that could happen, but there was a lot of discussion that I learned from them, because we discussed disc golf a lot, and that it takes about an acre per hole to do what the Professional Disc Golf Association of America considers a battle course. You know, one that you can have people coming back to and coming time and time again, and having, if you decide that you're going to have tournaments there, it needs to be an 18-hole golf course. Well, you know, we have 22 acres of upland, and if you put 18 of them in disc golf, you know, what goes in the other part of it? You know, so that's about when the committee showed up, and we got into some discussions about that and other uses. The pavilion seemed to be a real big use that the committee agreed they'd like to see, where you could have town gatherings. Of course, the parking, restrooms, and walking trails, and boat launches for small, like kayaks, and then you get into vending and how does all that work. And you know, there was quite a bit of discussion, and there will be interaction between the consultant and the staff, which is Mr. Albright, myself, and Sean Murphy primarily, but using our other resources that we have in the Planning and Public Services Department and Administration as well. Does that do it for you?
Yeah, pretty much. I won't go into too much detail, but a couple of things we decided right off the bat was that weren't going to work was a community pool. Number one, it's too.
Killed that one.
Yeah, it's too expensive, number one, and taking up the space. And the other one would be like some kind of athletic fields, like soccer fields and everything, because they take up, I don't know, soccer fields, 6 acres or something. There wouldn't be, and there's fields, there's a number of fields right nearby behind the elementary and the middle schools, and then over there the ones that the county has. And we're talking about the dog park, and there's sponsorship possibilities for that, so we may not have to pay for it. And as Greg mentioned, an amphitheater. And one of the things that I think they were in favor of also was some kind of a boardwalk and a kayak or canoe launch. And one of the main topics of discussion was disc golf. And the argument for doing it now, ahead of the report from our consultant who we're paying to figure out whether it's viable and how to fit it in there. The argument for doing that now is that we were talking to some people over at Bermuda Bay about getting access through there. It's a lot simpler. They adjoin our property, and the southwest part of the property over there is not developed, only to the extent that they have it's paved to get in there, and there's ample parking. So on May the 2nd, we had been in touch with the homeowners associations there and had some discussion with them. And on May the 2nd, we sent them a proposed agreement where they would grant us access to that tract from going through Bermuda Bay in exchange for some relatively minor traffic calming devices, because they're worried about too many people coming back there. And we wouldn't be, we're talking a very small amount, maybe between like $1,000 or $1,500 to just to put in some, what do they call them, traffic tables?
Speed tables.
Speed tables. They're not bumped, they just go up and, anyway. That's one argument for doing it now, because we have the access. The other is we have people that want to do it and say they'll do it and volunteer to do it, and we have money pledged to do it. However, the discussions that we had with Surface and Consulticon, they're kind of leery about putting it in now because it may have to be changed and it might get in the way of what they ultimately design. And I'm going to use a phrase that Greg gave me that he got from we had a chairman of the planning board, Bill Schmidt, was here. He was chairman for, I think, 22 years. And a very smart guy, and he was sometimes very outspoken about how he felt about things. But Greg reminded me the other day that he always said that there's 3 ways to do things. You could do it fast, good, or cheap. But if you do it fast and cheap, it's not going to be good. And if you do it, help me out here now.
He always said, just pick 2.
Yeah, just pick 2. You can't do all 3. Yeah, if you want to do it good, you have to have the money, and you can't do it fast. So anyway, if you can think all the different combinations of that, but there's only 2 of those you can use. And that made a lot of sense to me. It sounds like it's just something, a nice acronym or whatever, but it made some sense to me, and I'm just wondering how we're going to overcome that. I don't know. It's kind of set me to thinking a lot about it, but I'm not so sure that's something we should jump into right now, although it seems to be a lot of the issues are in place to do it. But
one other thing I failed to mention that we took a lot of the time in the meeting was the access. And for those of you that don't know, Public Services Department has a limb storage and mulching area, and also a discarded dirt pile where they dig out ditches and put the remainder of what they bring back out of the ditches in a pile and let it dry up, and they use it. But it takes up area, and the trucks go through, particularly during the large item pickups, which happen to be in the spring and the fall, when parks typically get a lot of use. And we're working on trying to figure out a way to mitigate the truck traffic and the public traffic that may go back there to recreate. Of course, we've got a school and ball fields, and like Mr. Hogan mentioned, in that area already. And that's just something we're going to have to work around. But it's something that's in their mind is ways to make those 2 uses that aren't necessarily compatible more user-friendly.
yeah, one last thing, and then I'll close. Is the access through Bermuda Bay wouldn't necessarily be a permanent solution. It the access would most likely come from the way we go in now and making adjustments to that public services area there. Hope that answers your question. I don't know, because I'm kind of up in the air about it now. I was kind of gung ho about it before, but I'm thinking about it. Any questions?
Well, first, at full disclosure,
Please.
my husband is one of the he really wants to see disc golf, so I'm going to fully disclose that, and he does it whenever he's out there. He discloses it of himself. He's very passionate about that, but I think from hearing what I hear from him when he comes home from a meeting and from listening to this, because I really do try to stay balanced, I don't think there's any congruency yet on what type of course this community wants, in the sense of there's the gamut of courses that you can design for disc golf. It can be the smaller community course that you could do for $15,000. It could be professionally manicured hundreds of thousands of dollars for a disc golf course. And I'm thinking right now that the community, or for the community of avid disc golfers, I mean, not the community at large, I don't know that they've ever come together to say to define exactly. And so I think until they do, until that group comes back together, and it may be that we need to facilitate that, I think that's information that Surface will need. Because if it is that they just want the little upscale backyard type course that can be done for under 15, that doesn't require much in the way of, it certainly doesn't require an acre per hole, and it doesn't require as much of cutting down and manicuring. That's a whole different scale and scope than if you are looking at a manicured course. And so I agree, if their vision is to be holding championship professional tournaments, then I would agree maybe it wouldn't make sense to move forward right now. But if that's not the vision, or maybe the vision is you start with this upgraded backyard course, see what the interest is from the community. Do we have enough people playing at that level that then maybe it makes sense to move longer term to that professional course? But I guess I would like to see, not only on behalf of keeping my home life, so we don't have to talk about this all the time, but I think for our community and our long-term plan for the town would be, let's try to get some consensus now from that group of what their vision is, because I really don't have any idea for the larger group. So I would like to see, I think we left it as a board the last time of trying to move forward, have Surface move forward with this big plan, but also at the same time move forward with the disc golf course. And that certainly is easier said than done because of how different the options are for disc golf course. So maybe so we don't lose momentum, if that group could come back together and really come to an agreement on what type of course. And then that would help guide the direction for, do we keep moving forward, or do we say, if everybody wants this really nice course that we're not ready to do right now and we wouldn't have enough funds, then maybe it needs to wait. So
Yeah.
could that happen?
Yep.
Could that group come back together?
I'm sure they could, yeah.
Does that sounds
reasonable.
I'm trying
Yeah,
to take a back seat.
No, we're planning on having another bomb track meeting, so we can discuss amongst ourselves what we learned the other day and this issue.
Okay. Cool. Okay. Do you have anything else?
Nope, I sure don't, not tonight.
Okay. Move into mayor's agenda. Quickly, I just wanted to highlight our successful trash attack event. I know Sue mentioned it, and but for those of you who were able to be out there, you'll know how much fun it was. We had over 80 volunteers this weekend collecting trash on behalf of the town, and I should have brought the t-shirts in, because if you were driving around town on Saturday morning, you couldn't miss them. I mean, you could see them for miles away probably. They're safety greenish yellow, really bright green, but nice prominent town logo on there with volunteer and recycle on the back. But it really was neat, and speaking with some of the other volunteers that went out, especially those that worked around the bypass or say the beach road, not only was it just a great event for collecting trash, but the citizen, like people driving by, the camaraderie. I mean, people were honking and high-fiving and, just thanking the people that were out there collecting trash. Again, it's one of those endeavors that we would not have been able to successfully pull off without volunteers and also town staff. I know, to pick on several that are here tonight, but Brian Brightbill was instrumental in helping us be very organized and strategic. Billy Gard and his staff went through and with our solid waste management, went through and identified the streets throughout our town that were at most in need of cleaning up, because we knew we would have limited resources and volunteers. So then they gave those streets to Brian, and he was able to create maps and redlined those areas. So each volunteer, when they checked in on Saturday morning, was given a very specific route to target and focus on that. So it was just really a great way to do it. But Tony, thank you for your help out there. He was out there with us early. Well, he was out there probably earlier than anyone else. And Steve, thank you as well. And Mary's not here tonight. Harriet was very helpful as well with communicating with our trash attack committee, and Mary and Ross with, you remember the last meeting when we got to recognize the children who helped create the poster and the artwork. So just a great event. And just some data. Billy went out there to kind of see how much was really collected afterwards. Anyway, there was approximately 6 cubic yards of refuse collected, 3.5 recycle carts, which is about, well, I wouldn't say about, it looks pretty accurate, 336 gallons of recyclables was collected that day, and 7 bulk trash items. I know one of those, it was like a piece of wood that I was carrying down the road too. So I mean, it was a substantial amount of stuff was collected. So just a great event. And you know, we haven't done this in the town since 1997, and so I think bringing Trash Attack back, which was really headed by the Community Appearance Commission, I think really the way it's structured now and the organization that's been put in place will set this to be an annual event that can be very, very successful and hopefully grow. There was so much going on this past weekend. You know, it was Mother's Day weekend, but on Saturday it was Relay for Life, it was the Nags Head Woods Run, there was a Couture by the Shore, which is a fundraising event. I don't know that we could have probably competed with that many more items in one weekend and still had 80 volunteers, so I do think it's an event that will grow. So.
Yeah, and the shirts were not only for safety, but it was just to let people know we weren't doing community service.
I was wondering a few times when people rode by if they were doing, was I in trouble?
Volunteer.
That's right.
What have they done now?
So, anyway, and that's all I have this evening. So, Debbie, we'll turn to your agenda.
Nothing this evening, ma'am.
Okay. Town attorney?
Don't have anything for you.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, we do have one more time set aside this evening for public comment. Is anyone that's remained with us for the duration? Does anyone have anything they'd like to bring up? Yes, Ms. Katie.
Ma'am, if I may, while Ms. Katie comes to the podium, I do have a consent agenda.
Thanks.
And there's just 2 items. It won't take me just a second. The minutes from April 23rd, 2014, and as I alluded to during the budget presentation, the change of the meeting date from May 28th to May 21st, and this will be the second meeting of the month, and it will also be the work session for the budget. And approval of the consent agenda will place the consensus of this in the minutes, and staff recommends approval of the consent agenda.
Thank you. I'm sorry you had to fight for getting it back on the
No
agenda.
problem.
Is there a motion for the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second. Okay, any discussion?
Thank you.
All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you, Katie.
You're welcome. I'm Katie Appleman, 509 Copley Drive, Kilda Hills. I want to say thank you to the gentleman that came from First Light for the civics class. I loved your presentation. I really loved your presentation, and I am in full support of it. I think it is a huge thing for our town to have. Our beaches are the #1 reason that people come to see us. Absolute #1 reason. They come for the marathons and they come for everything else, and we provide them toilets. We don't provide them anything for the beach. And that's really important. You know, I mean, they sit out there all day long and they have to get in their car to go to the bathroom. That's not acceptable. We need to be able to do something. And I think this was the perfect time for you guys to come out and say something, because you're getting ready to do your budget. So it's really a good time to kind of put that money aside in that budget, in my opinion, so that we can go potty and not have to drive back to the house for everybody. So I would appreciate the board's thoughtful consideration of this. And good job, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie.
Thanks.
Thanks, Kate.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak this evening?
Just real quick, I also lend my support to these guys, and I actually brought up the same idea in one of our committee meetings, but they did not only did a much better presentation, but also dressed better than I
Good job. Good job. Thanks. Anyone else? Yes.
James Olney, 113 Port Hill Court. Yeah, I'm glad that we brought the flag, that Commissioner Appleman brought the flag issue back up again. But I wish that there was a happy medium, you know, from whether it's 2 inches to 50%. Seems like a pretty big jump. You know, if we could come to some, because, you know, there's an aspect of it that I understand what Commissioner Hogan's mentioning is, if you tell of somebody that their flag can be 50% damaged and still be okay, it's almost like we're accepting that, and that just seems like a lot to me. Right, thanks.
You said it better than I did, I think.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak this evening at this public comment time? Okay, last chance? Okay, all right. Well, with that, any response to public comment? Katie will take it under advisement.
I agree with you 100%, Chip.
Okay. All right, well, with that, a motion to adjourn is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you.